Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Life, Real Kitchen podcast. This is a podcast for curious mums who are looking for a better way in this crazy modern world in which we're living. This week, I have the wonderful Sarah Woodward, who is a divorce coach. We live in times where, alas, alack, it's about 50% of marriages, isn't it, Sarah? Or maybe 40 or
2% in the UK.
Yeah, 42% in the UK of marriages, sadly, end in divorce. So I've brought Sarah on because this is might be directly affecting some of the listeners, but I don't think there's a family in the land who doesn't know of others who have gone through this. So one of the reasons I've asked Sarah to come on is just to have a chat about how divorce kind of comes about, how to survive it, if that's something that you're going through or have gone through, tips for prevention. I just have a lot of questions, but I'm going to start with Sarah. Sarah, tell us a bit about your background and how it is that you came to be specifically a divorce coach? Because I think people are familiar with life coaches or mentors and things, but a divorce coach sounds quite niche. How has this come about?
Yeah. So first of all, I support people through the practical and emotional challenges of their breakup and divorce. My background is I'm actually a chartered accountant. I trained with Price Waterhouse, and I worked in Sony Electronics for 15 years, sort of managing and leading teams. And the part of my job that I always loved was coaching people and seeing them develop and leading them. That's where I got the most satisfaction from. And even though I loved my job, I always felt there was something missing and I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And alongside that, when I was at Sony, I went through my own divorce, 2003.
Yeah.
So a long time ago now. And I was completely blindsided by it. I didn't see it coming. And I really struggled to move on. I had lots of therapy. But in hindsight, I was just going week after week, going over the same thing, which was just keeping me stuck. And we can talk a bit more about that. When I left Sony, I qualified as a coach, a life and business coach, and I didn't know what to coach in. And then I found out in 2019, I found out about divorce coaching. And I was one of the first to get accredited in the UK. And as soon as I heard about it, I didn't even know it existed before then. I was like, that is what I'm supposed to be doing, because I knew it would have made so much difference to me when I was going through my own divorce if I'd had that expert, specific and tailored support and advice, really. And it just feels like I've found my purpose now, my passion.
I think that is a bit of a theme that I keeps on popping up in this podcast, but actually how from personal suffering there can be so much purpose and service can come
Mm,
of it.
absolutely. And that's what the
Yeah.
research shows as well, because I'm actually a positive psychology coach as well, which
Mhm.
is the science of happiness and well-being and helping people flourish in life. And the research shows that as long as we have a growth mindset,
Yeah.
that from the challenges we face in life, there are always silver linings and opportunities that come from it, even though you can't see it when you're in the midst of it. Some good will come from it.
Can you define for me what is a growth mindset? What does that? Yes.
Yeah. So again, that's another term for from positive psychology. So that's kind of a person who thinks that they can always improve and they can learn things and they're prepared to develop, as opposed to someone who's got a fixed mindset who just kind of would think, well, this is just how life is. I can't do anything about it. This is my lot. So yes, very, very different. One is much more kind of empowered and positive, and one is kind of more stagnant and
Yeah.
doesn't
Is
take
there?
responsibility.
Yeah, and sort of says, "Oh, a little bit woe is me, bit victimy."
Yeah,
But a
yeah,
question, um, with that, I presume that there is an inclination to be your temperament. You're sort of more of a positive, uplifted person, or a bit more melancholic. But can that growth be developed? That idea of saying, "Yes, I can change." That
yeah. It can, and also interestingly, you talk about optimistic and 50% of our kind of happiness we're born with, it's genetic. And again, this is something that if I had realized when I was going through my divorce, I think it would have made a big difference. So 10% of our happiness is down to our circumstances, whereas I thought all of my unhappiness when I was going through my divorce was down to what was happening. And actually 40% is within your control at any one time. So it
Wow.
just shows how much, yeah, power we have. And actually just even telling some clients that information has been a bit of a light bulb for them. And it, it just kind of motivates them to think, I can do something about this. It is within my control.
Yeah,
And like you
it's
said, it
not.
takes them out of that victim mentality.
Yeah, yeah, it gives people a sense of freedom
Mm,
and a bit more power. Big words. Freedom and power. Hmm. What is the difference? Because you mentioned when you had your divorce, you went to see a therapist,
hmm.
but you are a coach. What is the difference
Yeah.
between that? Because obviously both, somebody who's their marriage is breaking up and everything. Yes, what is the difference
Mm.
in terms of the
So,
support that is given?
yeah. So I have clients that also have therapy alongside coaching,
Yeah.
and I have clients that have come to me after therapy and now they want to move forward. So the best analogy I have for understanding coaching versus therapy is if you imagine you're driving a car. Therapy is looking through the rearview mirror and coaching is looking through the windscreen. So
Oh,
coaching is very much forward looking, it's action focused, it's solution focused. Therapy tends to be looking at the past more. They might be going into your childhood to understand why you behave the way you behave, um, and helping you understand yourself and sort of how you got to where you are. It doesn't mean we don't try, if we need to, that we won't go back to the past in coaching, but it's a very different focus. Like clients will always, from coaching, come away with an action plan that helps them keep their momentum going.
yes, you can
Mm,
acknowledge the suffering that you've gone through, what has happened to you, but it is very much the looking forward and saying, yes, how can I move on from that?
mm.
And you
Because we
need,
can't change the past. It's about, helping my clients accept what's happened. That doesn't mean they're necessarily happy about it, but it's coming to a point of acceptance and thinking, okay, how do I move on from this? How do I take it as an opportunity to kind of reset my life? How do I bring happiness into my life again? Um, because a lot of the women I work with, when I say to them what makes you happy, they've lost sight of it. They don't know anymore. Where they're so used to putting everybody else before themselves, they don't know what their own needs are, and they don't know what makes them happy. So that's a large part of what we do in terms of helping them rebuild themselves.
yeah, yeah, and read that rediscovery of that joy as well
Exactly.
after all that sadness and that grief. What how does divorce come about?
Hmm.
I mean, what is happening that means the foundations? Because people meet, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and they go, "Oh, you're rather fab. I would like to spend the rest of my life with you.
Mm,
It seems like a good fit," and then off you go. But what has happened? What is happening that things seem to be crumbling more quickly, more frequently than in times past?
mm. So I think the first thing is there's very rarely like one event that causes a divorce. It's something that probably happens slowly
Yeah,
over time. And that can be things like, lack of communication, a lack of connection, especially for women, emotional
yeah,
connectedness within the marriage. Infidelity is obviously one of the reasons, but that can be often a symptom of what has been not right in the marriage for a long time. And then growing apart is something. And what we're seeing in the UK and the States, actually, in other countries, is a rise of grey divorce. I'm not sure if you've heard
is that
about
when they
that.
is that when they've stayed together for 30, 40 years and then
Yes,
they
over
drifting?
50s,
Yeah,
basically. So although the average divorce rates in the UK are dropping, um, the rates of divorce for people in their 50s and 60s are increasing significantly to the point where like 25% of divorces at the moment are for people over 50s.
wow,
Um, yeah, so it's huge, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The first is
yeah,
is kind of empty nesters.
yeah,
So people stay together for the children. Sometimes they've made that a conscious decision. They'll wait until the children leave. Sometimes when the children have left and all gone off and done their own thing, they realize they have nothing left in common, that they perhaps don't want to spend the next 30 years together. They want different things out of life. We're living longer. So people are thinking, do I
Mm,
want to spend the rest of my life with this person? A big one is that women are more financially independent now, so they can afford to leave, they can afford to support themselves, which is a huge reason. And then there's not so much social stigma. I mean, even when I look back to my own divorce, which was just over 20 years ago, things had changed significantly. I didn't know anyone else who'd been divorced when I went through it,
yeah.
so it was really isolating. I had no one to talk to that had been through it that actually got it. Um, and that makes a huge difference. You know, some of my clients say to me, just being validated and understood, it is a huge thing for them.
It's
Mm,
I'm going to come back to the grey divorce because I don't know. The thing is, women we're kind of good with a network. We can go out and be it if we're working or we can join communities. We tend to be quite good at having a network, and
hmm
widows generally do better than widowers, which makes me think you've got a whole heap of divorced chaps in their 50s and 60s who have been amalgamated into a family social network that has gone. What is happening to these chaps? I mean, yes, you're going to get extroverts, sure,
mm,
but generally they're sort of not. What
mm.
what does it mean
And
for them?
a lot of them will end up in other relationships.
Okay.
And it's really interesting what you say about women and their networks. The research on friendships show that women's friendships are based much more on emotional connection
Yeah.
than men's are. And men can have really good friendships, but they will all be kind of surface level in terms of the conversations they
Yeah.
have. You know, what's happening with football. They won't even know anything about what's really going on in the other person's life. So it's
Mhm.
very true that women have much more of a support network. And a lot of the women that I work with, and again, what we're seeing, the patterns are that women in particular, are choosing to be on their own, and
Yeah.
they're not going to compromise just to be in another relationship. But I think I
Yeah.
read something in the Times a few weeks ago that was saying the rate of marriage for men over 65 is much higher than the rate of marriage for men in their 20s and
Yeah.
30s. So
Are
a lot of them are getting married again.
are they marrying someone younger? Do we know
Didn't
what's
No, it didn't go
no.
into that.
Okay.
No,
No.
to perhaps look into that a bit more.
No, no, it's really what's interesting, and I'm gonna come back to the widows and the widowers. Having
Mm,
said the widows do very well as you can if, you lost your husband. But I also have noticed a bit of a pattern that with a widower or, that the chaps will sort of in some ways bounce back, and within a year or 2, if they're gonna get married, that's usually they've found someone
mm,
quite quickly, whereas a
mhm,
widow is
mhm,
usually quite content.
mhm.
So it sounds like the divorce has a
Yeah.
similar psychology to it, which brings me on to this sounds a lot like grief.
Mhm.
Sounds like
And
a death.
it is exactly the same process. And divorce is the second most stressful thing you can go through in life, second only to the death of a loved one. But you go through all the same stages. And I think it's really important for people going through a breakup or divorce to understand that. And, you know, it's something that I certainly talk through in my coaching sessions so they can understand where they are in the process and actually what's going on with them so they could be much more compassionate
Mm,
with themselves. So, you know, the process that you go through is first of all, if it wasn't your decision, you go through shock and denial.
yeah,
And that's like, I can't believe this is happening to me. You kind of bury your head in the sand a bit. And I certainly did that. Um, and it's like your brain just gives you as much as you can cope with at that time. Um, and then you go into an anger stage where obviously a heightened emotion. You can be angry at your partner or at yourself, and you can find that your anger might come out at things that aren't even related to it. You know, it just erupts. Then there's the bargaining where you might perhaps be trying to get the marriage back on track, win your partner back. That's when you see people, go to the gym and trying to lose weight, all
Mhm.
those kind of things. And then there's depression, which is obviously low mood, and then there's acceptance. Um, and what the important thing to understand is it's not a linear process. There's no set time for it, and you bounce
Mhm.
between the stages as well. So, for example, you could have reached the stage of acceptance, but then maybe your ex, you find out they found someone else and you
Mhm.
could be back into depression or anger.
Yeah.
So, and you can be in more than one of those stages in a single day as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It make again, I'm just sort of making the comparison with with death and the loss of a loved one. You're sort of pootling along, minding your own business, and then you'll see something that reminds you. And it's like
Yeah.
I think of it like a sort of really painful crochet hook just goes and grabs
Mm-hmm.
you, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you're back there again,
Yeah.
and you're back there again. So, and there is no, and you're saying there isn't. It's not like give yourself a year.
No, I
Again,
mean,
there's
there is
definitely
some research. And some research says, it can take at least 3.5 years. And that was certainly the case with me. So again, it really does. It varies. It varies on depending on how strong your relationship was, how long you were together, and other factors
yeah.
influence it as well. But I think, that if people try and rush it and distract themselves, then they don't heal properly, and that's when it comes back to bite you later.
Yeah, very much so. I could again, I make the comparison with a death. You just kind
Mm,
of, I'm fine, crack on, everything's all right, and then it all comes
yeah,
tumbling out at a later
yeah.
date. Yeah, yeah. Gosh. Now, with you're also we were talking just before the podcast began. So people will come to you, and you are helping them with the kind of the practical and looking forward.
Hmm.
But you also are working with the divorce lawyers. Now, is that you
Mm.
are working in tandem with them, or the client has you says, I just want to work with you, Sarah, and the lawyer side is separate and I'll tell you what's going on, or you're communicating with lawyers? What does that triangle look
Mm.
like?
So it's funny. I had this conversation with a solicitor this morning, actually, and I'm very much more of a collaborative approach.
Mhm.
Um, It doesn't happen so much at the moment. It's done in isolation. Like obviously my clients will tell me what's going on. They'll send me copies of correspondence and things. I would much rather that basically the client had their support team in place at the start, which I
Yeah.
always say is a solicitor, a divorce coach, and financial planner as well to
Yeah.
help with the numbers.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of you set out the strategy at the start. But then yeah, so I refer to solicitors and they refer to me. I have like trusted professionals that I use. I have a lot of them, so I always match them up with kind of personality
Yeah.
and um like the intricacies of their case, what kind of solicitor they need, because the solicitor will set the tone of your divorce as well. So I
Yeah.
always advise clients to think about that very carefully from the start. And also to find someone that they really trust and they feel comfortable with, because it's very overwhelming. They're at one of the most vulnerable times in their life, so
Mm.
they need to feel really safe and trust that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. And if you've got children in the mix and you're trying
Yeah,
just to keep the day
yeah,
to day running, that is a massive element to it. I
mm,
think, your observation about the temperaments, finding that complementarity with the temperament is really
mm,
important, because if you've got somebody, who just wants bish bash bosh, I want the clarity, let's get on with it, and then you have a sort of slightly fluffy, warm
mhm,
solicitor, that's not gonna work, and vice versa as well.
mm,
Somebody who needs the fluffiness and they're getting the bish
mm.
bash bosh, that's going to be a huge clash, and it's just going to add to the stress.
Yeah, and it's also whether you have a solicitor that's um, wants to find a resolution that works for both of them, or whether you've got a solicitor at the other end of the scale who's very much a litigator, prefers to go
Mm.
to court, quite aggressive approach, and that can really set the tone.
Gosh,
Mm,
that's a terrifying thing,
mm.
having to go. I mean, are the vast majority of, again, I'm just presuming, majority of divorces, are they sort of quietly handled between solicitors? There isn't the need to go to court and sort of bash it out?
I haven't got the exact numbers, but what we are seeing is that even though the divorce rate is falling, the sort of the more high conflict ones are going
Yeah.
to court. Having said that, the court issued something, I think it was last year, that they're very much, the court is completely overworked and huge
Yeah.
backlogs, and they're very much trying to encourage couples to settle outside of court. Like things, there's loads of ways that you can settle that the layman wouldn't even know about.
Mhm.
Some people have heard of mediation, but there's
Yeah.
arbitration, there's private hearings, there's lots of alternatives,
Mhm.
and it's not looked upon you well by the court if you haven't tried any of those methods and you just
Okay.
take someone to court, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
especially as you said, when there's children involved. There is research that shows that obviously divorce is going to affect children, but it's more how you handle it that has the bigger impact on it. So, whether they're subjected to high conflict, whether they're used as pawns in the middle,
Mm.
um, etc. And, you know, it's not always best for the parents to stay together for the children. If it's, obviously if it's an abusive relationship, it
Yeah, yeah,
definitely
yeah.
isn't. But if there's no love or anything between the parents, if they're in separate rooms, if the communication is only practical and logistical, I always say to my clients that are thinking about leaving, you are the role model for your children. So what are you modeling in terms of what they're going to expect from their relationship
Mhm.
going forward? And I think a really powerful question is, how would you feel if your child was in a similar relationship that you're in now? And that's
Yeah.
a really powerful question to ask yourself, because it isn't always the right thing to stay for the children.
Do you, have you had people come to you and then they've turned their marriage around?
I have had a couple of clients, yeah. So I do get a lot of clients that come to me that are questioning their marriage and thinking about leaving. And I'm very much, if you're going to leave your marriage, you need to make sure you're absolutely sure and that you're leaving with no regrets. So we spend time going through, what are the issues with the marriage? What are you not happy with? What are you compromising with? And what would it take for your marriage to work really, and what could you do about that? And sometimes they go away and have a time frame and they work on specific things to see if they can
Mhm.
turn
So
it
what,
round.
yeah, what is fixable? So, sorry, I'm gonna be slightly flippant here, but yes, I hate his choice of tea mugs in the morning. He knows it's not my favorite one.
Yeah,
You're like,
so
"It's
is
not
that
about the tea mug. It's not about the mug, is
exactly,
it?"
is that really something you can't live with? It's just what are the deal breakers
Yeah.
effectively?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And a
So
person, it takes two people. You can't change anyone, but the other person has to want to work on the marriage. And it's about accepting, a lot of people try to change a person. They get married thinking they could change them.
mm-mm,
They have to
mm-mm.
want to change. And, the best thing you could do in that situation is just to change yourself. And then they will, that will have a positive impact potentially on the marriage. But that's a big thing when people think they can change someone.
Yeah, because it's also, that's the thing. I suppose we live in a time when we feel we can control everything. We can control our careers. We can control how much money comes in, and it's a lot. Yeah, we can beep 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 on our phone, control what we're having for
Hmm.
dinner. Blah blah blah. Um, Love is a hugely risky thing because you cannot
Hmm.
control who you choose.
Hmm.
You have children. You that's a gamble. It's a wonderful gamble, but it's a gamble. Um, so yes, within a marriage you can't change a person. You can't fix a person unless they want
Hmm.
fixing.
Exactly.
You can't fix a person. That's not just marriage, but relationships in general.
Mm.
Um, and I suppose the challenge is, just thinking out loud, I suppose the challenge is to be at peace with the fact that somebody doesn't want help. Somebody doesn't want to be fixed or can only, it's like, I can manage this much, but I
Mm.
can't manage more.
Mm. And for you, it's that decision where it's like, can I live with that? Am I
Yeah.
prepared to accept and that's the bit you can control and you have got the influence over. But and then you make that decision, you kind of make peace with it instead of moaning at them and nagging them and going on and on all the time,
Mm.
because that is not healthy.
Yeah. Yep. So the couples that or the clients who've come to you and have gone back and their marriages have been revived, what were the I suppose what were the takeaways from that? What did they do? What happened that changed and
I
saved
think,
their marriage?
yeah, I think part of it is actually getting to the crux of what they're not happy with. And what we just talked about really, one, can it be changed by a conversation and working together? Or is it something in the scheme of things that actually they could put up with and accept going forward? And I think, a big question I always ask them is, do they still love them? Because I think that's fundamental as well. Do they want
Yeah.
the marriage to the work? Are both of them invested um, in the marriage? I mean, I have a lot of women clients who come to me and they feel very disillusioned and disheartened with their marriage. Quite often they're the main breadwinner, but yet they're still carrying all the
Yeah.
emotional workload, running the house and doing everything. And they're like, actually, it would be easier to live on my own. This is not what I signed up for. It's not the partnership that I expected. And I hear that a lot.
Could I be a bit cheeky and a bit
Mm,
trad? Would it not be easier to work part-time and then the fella do most of the
mm.
hard yards?
I
And
guess
then
that's their choice, isn't it, in terms of what brings them happiness, how they get their fulfillment. And I guess, that's where the communication and talking about what the expectations are
yeah.
up front is really important in terms of, okay, we're thinking about children. How is that going to work?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
how
I
is that?
could I could flip it back to you and say, why can't the bloke stay at home and look after the children? I've
I
got
would
friends where that happens.
Yeah, I know where that happens, and
Mm,
again, I'm gonna be a bit trad and controversial. Um, I I fundamentally, unless there is, like, a serious difficulties, for example, a death or an illness,
mm,
small children in particular need their mums.
mhm,
This is just an anthropological, biological attachment reality that in the modern
mhm,
world, in the West, we're denying.
mhm.
They need their mums.
Mhm,
It's hard because we have
mm,
been educated and we've
mm,
got brains, we've got careers we wanna work on,
mm,
but the children need us.
mm. I think it's
Um,
about what makes everybody happy, what's best for everybody, and as we talked about earlier, it's about seasons as well.
yeah.
It's like, okay, well,
Oh,
I'll stay
yes.
at home until the children are this age,
Exactly.
but this is
Exactly.
what I want going forward, and I think it's
Yeah.
just comes down to communication
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
expectations, doesn't it?
And having put my judgment hat on and been sort of all terribly conservative and trad there, um, I think the seasons point is so important because
Mm,
I'm gonna come back. There's a great writer called Mary Harrington. She's got a Substack floating around somewhere.
mm,
And she's written in a really engaging way about the realities of families as economic units
mhm,
historically until the Industrial Revolution, and that women would still contribute. And that, men are out in the fields ploughing and doing the dangerous, hefty stuff, and the women are spinning the yarn. I
mm,
mean, I'm being very simplistic here.
mm,
But the women were doing things that they could pick up and put down, make sure the cooking was happening, make sure the toddler was not dying in the fire, this sort of thing. So women were still contributing. Dinner's burning, the washing's multiplying, and someone's crying. It could even be you. If your evenings feel like survival mode, the Command the Chaos Mum Life Management Planner is your first gentle step back to calm. It's a printable 80-page guide and planner to help you reset your routines and breathe again without needing to become someone else entirely. Start your reset today. The link's in the show notes. And then we're still using our brains. It comes back to the community side of things as well, having those networks. But I think seasons is a really important point because when the children are particularly small, and it is intense, they need their mums. I've
mhm,
just they need their mums.
yeah,
But later, coming back to, I suppose, conversations with partners, I'm just, again, ideas
mm,
out there, conversations with husbands. Maybe, yes, the woman at an older stage, teenage kids, I'm going out for more of a career.
mm,
Husband, could you do more working from home and going back in the hours? So there is still the work happening. There is still the fulfillment, but there is also this realization that there are others who are dependent upon you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it might be the children, it might also be the marriage. And there are times that people take steps back. So yes. So
It's
I'm not
never 50-50, is it?
it's
It's
never
exactly as you've
50-50.
just said. Yeah,
But
it's
it's
it
also
s
yeah,
swings and
flowing. For
roundabouts.
people who
Yeah.
aren't watching on YouTube, I'm doing a flowing gesture with my hand. It's a flowing thing, but that feeds back into communication,
Mhm.
stronger relationship, finding time and space to actually say, "Oh, can we this isn't
Yeah,
working. What can
and
we
checking
do
in
that"
with each other,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Really important because, again, I think we've been led to believe that the only option is employment and in a career, on a
Mhm.
ladder to someone
Mhm.
else's timetable, whereas we could be so much more creative. We could be so much more
Absolutely. And
creative.
we have the technology to help us
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
nowadays, and COVID showed that, we can work from home, we don't have to
Mhm.
be in an office 5 days a week, so
Yeah,
things have changed significantly, and it's like we almost need to catch up with that.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, is that something else? Because you were saying you were a business coach before. Do you give a bit of kind of careers advice? I'm
Um,
thinking more for the family that, the clients who are
yeah,
coming to you pre-breakup. Actually, maybe even
um,
post. Post.
more
Yeah.
post. So, I haven't really so I've not ever done business coaching, I'm trained in it, but, yeah, I have done coaching because, I mean, that's the thing about coaching, you never know what's going to come up, and that's why I have a breadth of qualifications as well as the depth in terms of divorce coaching, because it's rarely just about divorce. It is, maybe the woman has stayed at home and looked after the children, but now she's going to have to go out and earn a living. And we do look about so things like that do come up quite regularly. And yeah, I love
And there's
that part of it because
Yeah, I was just going to say, and there's going to be a confidence element to that because if you've been at home and you're
massive.
like, I'm an absolute superstar at all the wiping and the cuddles and
Yeah.
the book reading and getting the school run done, which, if you pull it apart and actually look at the skills involved,
Hmm.
huge.
Well,
You
that's what
know,
I
I've
was going
been
to say. There's lots of transferable skills.
huge. I've
So it's
been,
helping them identify that.
exactly. And because we have had a few decades of, oh, you're just at home, denigration of the domestic,
Hmm.
that's really
And I hear
powerful.
It is, and I hear that a lot in terms of if I have female clients and their husband has been their main breadwinner, he's like, "You're not touching my pension. I've worked for that."
Wow.
And there's no recognition of what the wife has done in terms of
Oh,
staying at home, giving up their career, and bringing up the children. It's really common. You're not touching my pension because I've
wow.
worked for that, and no recognition of the part that they've played in it that's helped the man have the career and the children.
That's a excuse my language, listeners, that's a really prickish thing to do.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
really oh, um, uh, and it shows that there is not an attitude of it being a team or a collaboration,
Exactly.
that you're not building something together, that you're
Yeah.
creating a legacy, a
Hmm.
building block of civilization, if you will, if children
Mm,
are a
mm.
part of it. Wow,
And
that's
when you
just
look at it like that, it's hardly surprising that the marriage hasn't worked because, as you
yeah,
said, where's that
that's
team
stunning.
approach, that partnership that we're building this together, and the recognition that actually I couldn't have done this without you.
Whoa. Oh, I'm a little bit, I mean, in some ways not surprised, yet at the same time to hear you say that,
Mm,
oh, it's a sucker punch, isn't it? Absolute
yeah.
sucker punch. Oy,
And
oy, oy.
I can't remember the statistics, but it's a really high number of women that don't get the financial settlement they should because they
Yeah.
don't bring pensions into account.
Wow.
And it's one of the biggest assets, often the
Yeah,
biggest asset
yeah,
in the marital pot. Sometimes it's worth more than the family home,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they don't bring it into the equation.
Wow. Why is that? Is that just because of the legal setup around it, or what's
Sometimes it's lack of knowledge. A lot of the time, it is the husband saying, "Well, you can have the house, but you're not touching my pension." And they almost get rushed or bullied into making a decision. They want it over quickly. That it's
oh, so
lots of reasons, and
it's
maybe they don't
more
have the right support. Sorry, go on.
it's not that legally a
No,
spouse can't access
no,
the
no.
pension. It's more that
No. Yeah,
done and dusted, you go, "Oh, hang on.
yeah.
Ah,
But I
okay,
mean, if they
okay.
had good legal advice, then there's full financial disclosure, which would include all the pensions, the value of the
Yeah,
house, etc.
yeah,
It's definitely not a legal thing. I mean, what happens when you go to divorce, the start point is a 50-50 split, and then it's according to needs going forward. But everything is effectively goes into the marital pot.
yeah, 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 but you gotta have the right advice.
Mm,
Ah, yeah, it was interesting. I remember years ago, there was a lady I knew whose, husband just, again, left her out of the blue, and she was left with
mm,
small children, and the next day she still had to go into work. She
yeah,
started going to work at the
yeah,
school, was obviously in pieces. The headmistress is like, "Come talk to me," and this lady told the headmistress what had happened. The headmistress said, "You are going to a divorce solicitor today. Today.
mm,
Because if you leave it, you will get less." Because she said, "It happened to me. If you leave it, you're gonna get less and less and less. If you go
yeah,
today, you'll get like 80%. Um,
hmm,
and if you're meant to reconcile in the future, fine, deal with that then. But for now,
mm,
you've got to protect yourself and the children.
exactly.
Go now and do
Yeah,
that." Now, as a practicing Catholic, oh, but at the same time, I'm like, yes, you have to
yeah,
protect yourself. If you've got somebody who's just totally reneged on their responsibilities,
mm, yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
it's really hard.
yeah, really hard, really hard. How do you, in these sorts of instances, with the experience you've had, what are kind of the best ways to protect the children? Because
Mm,
this is just rubbish for children,
mm,
be they, I mean, obviously when they're small, but coming back to the grey divorce, that's
mm.
going to be a shock for the grown up kids as well.
Exactly. It still
Uh,
impacts adults. Yeah.
shall we do, let's do two bits. Let's go to, for the smaller children, let's say, 16 and under. What have you seen that has made for the most successful breakdown of a family? I'm not quite sure how
Mm,
to
mm.
have the words for it.
It's putting the children at the forefront of
Yeah,
all your decisions. It's as simple, doesn't mean it's easy, but it's
yeah,
as simple as that. The children have to come first, and all your decisions are led by that. For example, is it better for the children to stay in the family home
yeah.
if that's possible? It's making sure they have contact with both parents. It's never um, talking badly of the other parent in front
Mhm.
of them. It's never making them feel like they have to choose one parent over the
Mm,
other. It's sending them off to the other parent and being excited for them and asking them what they
yeah,
got up to, when they
yeah,
got back. It's not sending messages via the children and using them as pawn. So it is everything is done with the children
yeah,
at the center of all your
yeah,
decisions and all your behavior.
yeah, yeah. Which, to be honest, if we flip society around full stop and children were at the center, what a
Yeah.
very different world we would be living
Yeah.
in, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you've hit on a universal truth there, I feel. So that's the younger ones. I mean, your older ones, when your parents that you thought how were rock solid 35, 40 years marriage, and then they
Mm.
go, actually,
Yeah.
Nigel and Maureen are divorcing. And then
It's
you've
still a
got,
shock, isn't it?
yeah, what how does one sort of
Yeah, I
manage?
guess it's difficult for the parents, really. I mean, obviously they can reassure them again, try not to involve them in the conflict even because that they feel they have to choose one over the other.
Yeah,
And that's getting them support if they need it, if they need therapy or anything. And I kind of with my clients, I always try and help them to look long term. And it's like your children are going to get married, you're going to have grandchildren. So kind of manage your divorce with the end in mind in terms of do you want to both be able to be civil with each other at the wedding, even though and another thing is even though you're separated, the family unit still exists.
mhm,
And it's just, and this comes part of, setting the tone for your divorce. How do you want to play that out going forward? Do you still want to celebrate birthdays together and things like
yeah,
that? Do you want to meet each other at Christmas? And actually thinking about that strategically before you start, and then all your behavior and actions happen with
yeah,
with that in mind, really.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So again, it's actually in and amongst the sadness of the breakdown, it's putting that sacrifice and love
Mm,
to the fore
mm,
and saying,
yeah,
okay, we're doing this with the children so that we can have joyful times with our grandchildren. Yeah.
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 Because you hear about people that, are getting married and they have to choose which parent they want there because they refuse to be in the same place. It's just awful, isn't it?
Yeah. Really selfish. Judgment hat
Mm,
on. Sorry, Sarah, judgment hat
mm,
on. Yeah. I'm gonna come back to one thing. Again, we sort of had a brief chat about it before the podcast began, but one of the reasons that people divorce or what builds up to it is I don't feel the same way I used to. Where are the butterflies in the tummy? Where's the sexiness? Where's the flirtiness? Where's it gone? You're
mm,
just wiping all the time, or
mhm.
you're just at work all the time, and where's it gone? Is it people forgetting they're not 21, 25 anymore? And there are times in life that,
Yeah,
yeah, it's just I think seasons, is
absolutely.
that a
It's seasons again, isn't it? And people might be trying to get back to what their marriage was like or how it was when they first met. And that's not always realistic, especially if you've had children, you're both working now, maybe you met at university and you
mm,
didn't have any responsibilities. And it's just again, I think it comes down to communication and expectations. It's like what are both of you, your expectations and um what do you want from the marriage now and what does it look
yeah,
like now, and making sure that you're aligned with that and having those conversations about it because things change, doesn't it? And you're not always going to have those butterflies like it was at the beginning, and that's not realistic. And love changes and it develops and grows over time in different ways, doesn't it? Um, so I think it's just having that open communication, and if you're not happy about things, being able to voice that and feeling heard and listened to, because a lot of people that make the decision to leave a marriage, there's evidence like they've been doing that for a couple of years, up to a couple of years beforehand. And there's terminology that's coming out later that's called quietly quitting your marriage,
yeah,
which means you've kind of disconnected emotionally, you're almost living separate lives, but you're married, you are still married.
but is that so that's happening if there is no intervention, as if there isn't somebody within the marriage saying, "Hey, come on, we got to work on this," then you get that disconnect.
Yeah.
Okay, that
And that's why
unraveling.
sometimes it feels like a shock to the other party because the other person has been, pulling back, removing themselves from the marriage, and you weren't aware of it.
Yeah,
And that's why they say that, they finally say something like they're leaving, and that's why it's such a shock. And that person is left trying to catch up with the other person.
yeah, because it's also not fair. I know
Yeah.
that sounds quite childish. It's not
No,
fair,
but yeah,
but
it's
you
not.
don't get a chance to. Okay, so clearly there are problems. Could we not work on this and
And that's
grow and
exactly how I felt. I
yeah,
felt I never had the opportunity
yeah,
to fix whatever was wrong in my
yeah.
marriage, and that's really hard in terms of
Oh,
reaching acceptance and closure and helping you move on as well. It's
yeah,
really, really difficult. And like you said, it's not fair to the other person
yeah,
to voice what you're thinking, what's not working, what's wrong.
yeah. I just want to say because at the beginning of the conversation we were talking about control and fixing people whether they wanted to be
Mm,
fixed or not. That is a different thing to not even just knowing, "Oh, I didn't know the teacups were really irritating
yeah,
you, and
yeah,
now there's grounds for divorce. Why didn't you say
yeah,
so? I could have changed that." There's a difference there, and it also I don't know, it comes back in some ways back to that growth mindset, that positive mentality, that stagnant mentality,
mm,
the kind of the again, I'm just putting my judgment hat on, so Sarah, knock me down. But if you're not trying and you've just gone, "Oh, there's no point," that seems a bit, "Woe is
that's not
me,"
that's not what marriage is about, is it? It takes
rather
work.
rather than, oh, this is a bit crap at the moment. I'd like a few more
Mm,
date nights and told I'm beautiful even though I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms all the time.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's what I want to hear. You may not
Uh-huh,
believe it, husband, but I need to hear that.
uh-huh,
Um, so yeah, it just seems like a contrast in
mm,
mentality.
uh-huh.
Oh, well, there's a lot to unpack here, Sarah. It's a lot for me to mull on and think about. It's yeah, painful thing. I think the couple of things that sort of spring to mind: children at the centre,
Mm,
children at the centre, better
definitely,
communication. You know, more time together because the world is so busy, and if
absolutely.
both of you working, we've got all the busyness with the school run and the activities and blah 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 blah.
It's
Yeah,
remembering that you're still a couple, isn't it? And like you say, you need that
routine.
quality time
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's
you're a
really
team,
important.
and
Yeah.
there are seasons where you are sort of in the trenches, so to speak.
Mhm.
Oh, no, that I shouldn't use that term, but it's just it is intense and busy.
Mm.
Um, but know that that will calm down gradually and that all will be well. Hmm. Sarah, for the mums who are listening, the ladies who are listening, because it's mainly ladies, let's be honest,
Mhm.
who are going, "Oh, yeah, things are pretty scratchy and not great at the moment in my marriage." Um, or even they know of someone who's struggling. What have you got any kind of tips that you could give to encourage, to
Mm.
help? Obviously, I'm all about prevention,
Mhm. Absolutely.
prevention.
And even though
Um,
I'm divorce coach, I am as well. If it's the right thing
yeah,
for them to stay together, then I would
yeah,
absolutely
yeah. Again,
encourage that.
abuse,
Yeah. Yeah.
dependencies, whatever.
Aside. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be safe, absolutely. Um, but yes, what in your experiences, both personal and professional,
Mm.
what would you, yeah, what would you recommend?
I think it comes down to communication to
Yeah.
start with. Again, it's like having that open, honest conversation with your partner, where you're quite vulnerable, and you're voicing, the things that you're not happy with. Perhaps things have changed in the marriage, or what you would like going forward. And I think even before you have that communication, going a step backwards, it's actually trying to work that out
Yeah.
for yourself, isn't it? In terms of what we spoke about earlier, the deal breakers and what's not working for you. And it's trying to if you feel like the spark has gone, it's trying to recapture that between you, remembering what it is that you fell in love with it, because
Mhm.
you can lose sight of that, can't you? In the
Yeah.
in the hamster wheel of life and everything that's going on, you can sometimes lose sight of that. It's having quality time together, like we've
Mhm.
just spoken. It's like remembering that actually you are a couple as well. You're not just parents, and
Mhm.
that's really important. And then I think get support as well if you need it. An outsider. I think sometimes friends and family, they're often too invested in the situation, they're too
Mm.
close to it. I think getting professional expert help can be really valuable, although, some of the things I heard and what's a shame is by the time people go to marriage counselling, often it's too late.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a last resort, and it's actually recognising that there are issues, earlier on and talking them through and getting support if you need it.
Yeah, I suppose, one of the things to consider is marriage counselling almost as a top up.
Exactly.
Just kind of we need
Yeah.
just some
Yeah.
we keep on arguing over the teacups. We
Yeah.
can't get past the
What's
teacup.
really going on?
What's
Yeah,
really
what's it
going on?
really
Let's
about?
yes, it's not about the teacups. So, yeah, to look at that as again, it's having that sort of team,
Mm,
trying your best to go together as a team. And coming back to the spending time together and the busyness of life is finding again, I'm gonna throw this out there, but it is finding the courage to say no to things.
in
We don't
boundaries, yeah.
yeah, as also, do you know what? We don't need to be doing all the school parties every weekend.
Mhm,
We don't have to be doing so many activities at the moment. Maybe I cut down to 4 days a week,
mhm.
either side, man or woman,
Yeah,
whatever. That's just so that we have a chance to pause and reflect because we need that time
and it's
or a day off.
recognizing that before it's too late. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and just having that time together. Yep. Hmm. Sarah, thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you.
great to speak to you. Thank
It
you.
has. Where can people find more? They've gone, Sarah, she's the woman I need to talk to. I
So
want
my
to read
website
more.
is sarah-woodward.com. I'm on Instagram as a divorce coach, and on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
And I also have a free resource, Make Divorce the Best Thing to Ever Happen to You. Uh, even though when you're amidst of it, it's very difficult to imagine that. But I do believe, coming back to the growth mindset and everything, it's within your control and there will be some good to come out of it as well.
yeah. This too shall pass.
Yeah,
This
that's a
too shall
really
pass.
strong saying that I quite
Yeah.
often say. It's just a
Hmm.
moment in time. It doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
always going to be like that. And that can
Yeah.
just help kind of center you sometimes, can't it? And
Yeah.
just help you pause and think, okay, to get it into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's powerful. Thank you, Sarah. On that
You're
note,
welcome.
I shall say goodbye. And for anybody who's listening, please like, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, can you hit the notification button, please? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Let's get the word out there. Thank you so much, Sarah. Have a
Thanks so
lovely day
much.
to all the listeners
Bye.
as well. Bye bye. Love the podcast and want to help keep the kettle on? You can support the show. Think of it like buying me a cup of tea or helping cover the cost of the biscuits. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for keeping this kitchen conversation going.